Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to Namasoft ERP. You will take a quick look at the accounting module developed by Namasoft company. In later videos, we may explain the components of this module in detail. Of course, any ERP system will have its power to a large extent from the power of its accounting system. Therefore, a huge effort was made by Namasoft in the accounting module to be in the current status. At the beginning of using ERP system of Namasoft, you have to define the account chart. Namasoft provides 4 screens to define your accounts as follows: Accounts chart type screen, accounts chart, main account screen, accounts category. Account chart type. Namasoft gives you the possibility to define many companies in the same database, as you may have a holding company and there are many affiliated companies in the same database. For example, the entity may have a commercial company, an industrial company, and a service company. Each of these companies may have its own type of accounting chart, its own currency, and even its own calendar. The nature of the accounts definitely will differ according to the company activity. Of course, the accounts of the industrial company will differ from the commercial company. Therefore, you initially define the types of the accounting chart that you have in your entity, as each company may be linked with a specific type of accounting charts. After you define the types of the accounting charts, you have to define the accounting charts. Through the accounts chart screen, you can define all the accounts of the entity until the last parent in the chart. For example, the asset account. As the first, we define the asset account as the root account, which is the first parent. Then the fixed assets account and the current assets account will be defined as child for the assets account. And then the cash account and the customer's account may be defined as child for the current assets account, and so on. All these parents' accounts are defined in the accounts chart file. The last level of the chart is defined in the main accounts file. You can define in this file the detailed accounts and the subsidiary accounts. In other words, you can define all the accounts that are used directly in the system's documents, such as the journal entries, payment documents, receipt documents, sales invoices, purchase invoices, and so on. Through this field, you can define whether the account is a detailed account or a subsidiary account. And from here, you define the type of the subsidiary account. The detailed accounts such as the expenses account, the revenue account, and the intermediary accounts. While the subsidiary account may be the customer's account, the vendor's account, and the partner's account, and so on. You define the parent of each account through the chart with debit and the chart with credit, which were defined before through the account chart file. As we have already explained, the details of each window may be covered in later videos. The last file is the accounts category. The category is defined from this field, as you may insert one of the categories you have defined in the account category file. Each account in the accounts file you can associate with an account category that was defined before in the account category file. For example, you can define a category named as total investment and another category named as total public capital. Through the account category, you can define another form of the account classification, whether in the income statement, in the balance sheet, or in the statement of cash flows. This way, you can run the financial statements by the account classifications to be displayed briefly. The accounts bag. In each subsidiary like the customer, you can define about 21 subsidiary accounts like the customer account, receipt papers account, payments papers account, and so on. Through the accounts bag, you can define an infinite number of subsidiary accounts to be linked to the subsidiary. This way, rather than inserting the subsidiary accounts one by one in the customer, for example, you can link the customer by an account bag. Another benefit for the account bag, you can use it to implement the settings so that the system changes the accounting effect of the customer's invoices according to the currency of the invoice, rather than having to define an accounting effect for each currency. Safe deposit screen. Through this screen, you can define an infinite number of safes. In Namasoft, the safe deposit is considered as an independent subsidiary. You can link it by any number of accounts, like cash account, receivable account, payable account, and so on. Partners. Through this screen, you can define any number of partners to distribute their profit share in the year end, for example. From this section, you can define the partner address in detail. And then you can define any number of subsidiary accounts for each partner. Through the partner share screen, you can define the shares of profit for partners and managers. The manager may be a partner, an employee, or a third party. The profit distribution document is allocated to calculate detailed information for the shares of profit for both partners and managers. The purchase elements. Not all expenses could be defined as inventory items, such as the expenses of cleaning, buffet, the company's rents, and the electricity bills. All these expenses are usually entered by journal entries, but not all users can use the journal entries correctly. Therefore, Nama supports the method of purchase elements. Via the screen, you can define the purchase element in addition to the accounting effect of each element. This way, you can buy these elements later on through a miscellaneous invoice. Via the miscellaneous invoice, users can enter the purchase elements such as the items of the ordinary purchase invoice. As soon as the user saves the invoice, the system will perform the accounting effect of each purchase element. This method helps the data entry to avoid accounting errors that may be occur while entering the journal entries. You can link the miscellaneous invoice with payment vouchers. These payment vouchers could be paid in many payment methods, in addition to paying its value in installments. There are other documents that may be used as a workflow with the miscellaneous invoice, like the miscellaneous request and the miscellaneous order. Prevent transactions on accounts or subsidiaries. Via this screen, prevent transactions on accounts or subsidiaries. You can prevent transactions with any individual account or any subsidiary, like a certain customer or vendor. You can prevent the transactions within a specific period. The bank reconciliation concept is well known. Namasoft already supports bank reconciliation through the bank module. Through the subsidiary reconciliation screen, Namasoft generalized the reconciliation concept for all subsidiaries, such as customer, vendor, employee, and so on. Financial statements designed by users. Financial statement section. Already there are built-in financial statements in Namasoft system like the income statement and the balance sheet. But Namasoft allows authorized users like the financial manager, the system administrator, or even the professional users to create their own financial statements according to their needs. This method is a very strong facility and has already been illustrated in an earlier video. The link of this video exists above the current video. The settings section of the accounting module. The settings section includes 4 items till now. First, the account configurations. This screen includes many options and settings that control the behavior of the accounting module. The link that explains the settings exists above the current video. Through the currency screen, you can define any number of currencies, including the main currency. For each currency, you can define its English symbol, Arabic symbol, and its fraction. The ledger screen. For each company, you have to define a ledger record that defines the main settings of this company, such as its chart type, its calendar, current year, and the main currency. The last setting is the account distribution. Through this screen, you can distribute the value of any account into many branches, many sections, many departments, many analysis sets, or even many other accounts. It's a very strong method that can be used to support the methodology of the cost centers. The documents of the accounting module. The journal entry. The journal entry may be generated manually or generated automatically upon saving another document like the purchase invoice or the sales invoice, as the system generates a journal entry for any other document that has an accounting effect, like the sales invoice, purchase invoice, payment, or receipt voucher. Through the intercompany transfer screen, you can transfer amounts between companies that are defined in the database. When you transfer an amount from a company to another company or to many companies, the system generates a journal entry for each company mentioned in this document. These journal entries will be displayed in this table. Among the most important documents of the system are the receipt document and the payment document. Through these documents, you can pay dues from and to the company. For example, through the receipt document, you can collect many sales invoices to be paid by the customer. Also, the invoice customer can pay the invoices by commercial papers, in addition to having the possibility to pay these invoices in installments. In the same way, you can use the payment document to pay the purchases invoices with the possibility of using the commercial papers and installments. Namasoft supports many documents that work as workflow with the receipt and payment documents, such as the receipt requests, the payment requests, as well as the receipt and payment orders. Debit notes and credit notes. Of course, debit and credit notes are supported by Namasoft. The company may use a debit note to record debt for the company and a credit note to record debt for the customers. Later on, these notes may be used to pay off the invoices for the customer or for the company. Finally, the closing entry. Through the closing entry document, The system will close the revenues and the expenses in addition to recording profits and losses. After saving this document, the system will close all the previous periods to prevent users from issuing transactions within these periods. You can issue the closing entry at the end of the year or every 3 or 6 months. Thanks for watching. In next videos, we may illustrate the accounting module screens in detail.